Pure Financial Advisors have the answers to your retirement plan. This is your money, your wealth.
Hey, you take a look today, you got a crazy economy. We're living a lot longer. You got the demise of retirement pension plans have really turned traditional retirement planning on its ear. There's a new way to look at this. You have to redefine your retirement. Stick around because that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to look at some different things that you have to look at to have a successful retirement. So welcome to the show. Joe Anderson here. I'm a certified financial planner. I work for a company called Pure Financial Advisors. I'm with always my partner, Big Al Clopine. He's sitting right over there. So what I want to dive in today is that many people are retiring or they're looking to retire. I remember probably 15, 20 years ago, people thought, hey, I'm going to retire at age 55, 60, get the nice gold watch, nice fat pension with health benefits, and I'm going to live like an extended vacation. That is not the case today. People are living a lot longer and pensions are no longer. So it's up to you to create your own retirement income. With that being said, you have to redefine what retirement really means and you have to do a lot of planning. That's what's on my mind today. Hey, let me do this. Let me help illustrate this the best I can. And I'm going to go to the whiteboard here and I'm going to draw something out for you. Because when you look at retirement planning itself, it's a little bit different. So if you look here, well, so this is time, and then people retired, let's say at age 65, everything was great, right? And then here's their income, right? And then they passed away. But here's the funny thing, is that this is their lifestyle, but this was probably their Social Security and pensions that covered most of their shortfall. So they only had to cover this much of their overall savings, right? And they might have died at age 75. But if you take a look at today, right, people still want to retire at 65. That hasn't changed. But they're now living a lot longer, right? They're living to age 90 in some cases. Maybe it's age 100 in some cases. Now, here's the trick, is that people are living so much longer, so their capital has to extend. But look at your pensions. Now the pensions and Social Security are only covering this much. So all of this gap here needs to come from what? Your 401k plans, your IRAs, your Roth IRAs, your savings. So Al, I mean, this illustrates it perfectly, I think, don't you? Let's bring the big man in. Let's bring in Big Al Clopine. You like this illustration?
It's one of the best graphs I've ever seen.
I mean, I'm telling you, if this doesn't explain the problem that we have in retirement, this is going to be on the cover of Time magazine.
And you know what? It's so good. I think you kind of stole my thunder. But anyway, I will talk again about some of the changes, actually how the baby boomers are reinventing retirement. Because there's a couple good things, right? We are living longer and we are more active. So we like that. That's a good thing. But on the flip side of that, Joe, as you said, we got to make we got to cover this through our own income. So we got to understand how to put money into 401ks, IRAs, how to grow it, how to create an income stream from it. We have to understand how to do required minimum distributions, easy for me to say. And then, of course, as you said, Joe, most of us don't have pension plans anymore, so it's much more difficult to make this work because many of us are retiring at 65, some at 62, and you may have decades of retirement. In fact, Joe, when you look at life expectancy, you look at every few years, we're living longer than before.
Well, I mean, if you look at some studies today, Al, if a newborn today, they could potentially live until, what, 110? I mean, depending on what circles that you hang out with, we've seen that life expectancy is going to continue to increase. I think everyone knows that because the advancements of medical technology and everything else. So you have to really prepare for that. Because if you take a look at a generation ago, right, the life expectancy was age 75. But I would beg to differ that most people that are watching this program right now, you probably know someone that's in their late 90s or at least close to turning 100. That's the fastest growing demographic percentage-wise here in the United States. We're living a lot longer, so you definitely have to plan for that. Now, with no pension plans, what's going to happen, Al, is that people have to save a lot more money.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And because of that, you want to start early, you want to save often, you want to save as much as you can. And we're going to get into that into the show and some strategies to be able to do that. But Joe, as you said, it's we're retiring at the same age as maybe our parents, grandparents, or in some cases earlier, but we're not living to 65, 70, 75. We're living to 85, 90, 95. And as you mentioned, it's that 100-year-old, that's actually the highest or fastest growing demographic in the United States.
Well, if you take a look at this graph here, all right, so if I look at 2000, the average age, change in life expectancy, 84.6. All right, so you jump to 2014, right? That's 86.6. In just a few short years, people are living 2 more years. So now, what does that mean to you? You have to find a way to come up with another couple of years of savings to cover your retirement needs. Look at females, okay? So female life expectancy was 86.4. Now, in 2014, it's almost 90 years of age. Now, if you look at some different studies, Al, I mean, we've seen this. If you have a married couple at age 65, there's a certain percentage that at least one of you is going to turn to age 95, and so on and so forth. So the longer that you live, right, the longer you're going to live. So it's planning for that is really key.
Well, that's exactly right, Joe. And really the study that you're referring to, Society of Actuaries. So if for a 65-year-old couple, there's a 50% chance that one of you will live to age 92 and a 25% that one of you will live to age 98. So you better be planning for a long time. But something else that's changing is that we are a lot more active. That's a good thing. We're not just sitting around in rocking chairs anymore.
Hey, so what we're going to do is that we're going to take a short break. When we get back, we want to talk about strategies on how to handle all this. All right, so we're living a lot longer. The pension plans, yeah, you've heard it 1,000 times over. When we get back from the break, what we're going to do is talk about some strategies that it's never too late to start. There's simple things, there's simple moves that you can make to absolutely make your retirement everything that you want it to be. Because people are having a lot more fun in retirement, Al. It's a good time, so you want to make sure that you're planned for it, so don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a second. Hey, welcome back to the program. Show's called Your Money, Your Wealth. Joe Anderson here, certified financial planner with Mr. Alan Clopine. Thanks for tuning in today, talking about retirement planning and some of the challenges that people are facing when it comes to retirement. And basically, you have to redefine it. You can't necessarily live mom and dad's retirement. It's a new age, so you got to do different planning. Got a great stuff in this segment, so don't go anywhere. Before we get to it, let's go to the true-false.
And this is a good one. If my company does not offer a 401k or 403b, I can still contribute to a traditional or Roth IRA. True or false? And the answer to that is generally true, but it depends. So in most cases, you can do a retirement plan, but in terms of a Roth IRA, for example, your income has to be low enough to do a contribution. For a single taxpayer, that's about $116,000 to where it starts phasing out. For a married taxpayer, it's about $183,000 where that starts phasing out. And traditional IRA, anyone can make those until you're 70 and a half, and then you're not allowed to do that anymore.
Here's this most stupidest rule in the world. Is that let's say Alan and I are neighbors and we make the same amount of money, but he's got a 401k plan and I do not.
Yeah.
This is so you could put in $18,000. Well, Al's over 50, so he can put in a lot more money, right? But he can put in $24,000 into a retirement account, no matter what his age is, and take the full deduction. Let's say I make the same amount of money, I can only put in $6,500 if I'm over 50 or $5,500. And if I make too much money, then I can't even take the deduction. I mean, something's got to change when it comes to the. No wonder why people are so behind. Is that a lot of employers, you might be amazed at this, do not even offer a 401k plan through their employer, so they have really nowhere else to save. A 401k plan is pretty easy to save, right? You just check a box, the money goes in. If you don't have that plan, now you physically have to open up an IRA. You have to go to a brokerage firm and things like that, which makes it a little bit more challenging, a little bit more difficult because people really don't know where to go or where to get the information. This is craziness. We have to figure something out, and I'll digress. So, but anyway, if we have new pension law, I don't know. Anyway,
yeah,
but here's the deal. When it comes to retirement planning, it is not your mom and dad's retirement planning. There's a lot more things that you can do, and I think a lot of times we focus on the dollars and cents. but you have to look at what your life is going to look like. So we got a clip to see what retirement is really like today, because it's not your mom and dad's retirement.
The game has absolutely changed here for this generation.
The golden years are looking very different for baby boomers than they did for their parents.
We're seeing people get involved in so many things, from whether it's volunteer work or starting a business or a hobby. Maybe they have a passion for photography or pottery.
Boomers are booming, enjoying their favorite hobbies, but also giving a lot of their time to good causes. About 1/3 of people 55 years old and older volunteer. That's a 10-year high according to the Corporation for National and Community Service. They're hitting the gym at record paces as well. The International Health, Racquet, and Sports Club Association says people 55 and older represent 1/4 of their members. But how will they pay for their lifestyle for years to come?
In the past generations, people worked until pretty much age 65, and they had maybe 7 to 10 years where they had a pension and Social Security, and that pretty much took care of their financial needs. Now people are retiring earlier in their mid-50s to early 60s, and their money has to last them, in some cases, for 25 or even 30 years. My oldest client just passed away at 102 years old. So financially now, people are going to be stressed and trying to make their resources last for this extended period of time, whereas in the past, they didn't have to worry about it.
One difference for the greatest generation that could impact their quality of life is they're helping out their family members financially at greater rates than their parents did. 52% of boomers over 45 are helping out their children. 16% are helping their parents out financially.
If you're in your 50s and 60s and either retired or close to it, is that the money that you've worked very hard to save needs to last you and or your spouse for many, many years. So you really need to look at your overall financial plan and figure out, okay, well, how much can I afford to spend to really help the kids? And I think these days, you want to consider or assume that you're going to live well into your late 80s or potentially early 90s. And really, bottom line is this, is that your kids likely are not going to take care of you in retirement, so you have to take care of yourself and your own finances.
You know, the baby boomers are living in a sandwich generation. I don't know if you've ever heard of that before, but they're kind of stuck right in the middle, because they have elderly parents potentially that they have to care for, and then they have kids that they have to pay for, so they're stuck right in the middle. And so the money's going everywhere, which way but loose, but really focusing on their own self and their own retirement. So, yeah, I mean, it's a challenge.
And Joe, it's difficult for the baby boomers, because really, it's really the first generation that had to save, because there really are not a lot of pension plans. This is kind of the fact of the matter, is that used to be the case. A lot of companies had pension plans, and at this point, fewer and fewer do, so you have to save more yourself. And we're going to get into actually how to save and how much to save, but Joe, why don't you talk about the pension plans today?
I think it would be good if you would illustrate basically what people need to do, but let's go to look. Most private employers do not have a pension plan. I mean, back in 1975, right, so just about 40 years ago, 40% of all private employers had a pension plan. And what a pension plan is that you worked for the company for 30 years, got the gold watch, and then they gave you a retirement income. It was called a defined benefit plan. That benefit was defined for you based on years of service, your income, right, and how long that you've worked for the company and your age, basically. So they take those three factors and they said, okay, you worked for the company for 30 some odd years. We will give you 60% of your highest 3 years and pay you that for the rest of your life. That was a really good deal. Now you take a look, that was 2006, only 17% of private employers have a pension plan. I don't know what the statistics say today, but I think we can all guess that it's a lot lower than 17%. So what do? You have to start saving, and sometimes people don't understand the compound interest factor, because it doesn't take a ton. All you got to do is start now, and then you can get into it. Al, why don't you illustrate this real quick?
Yeah, let's talk about how much you can save in these various plans so that you know what's possible. So let's start with the 401k, and this is the same for a 403b as well, so same exact numbers. But our number right now for 2015 is $18,000. That's the number that you can save into the 401k. That comes right out of your salary, okay? So you can, if you make $100,000, you can have $18,000 go into the 401k, so you only pay taxes on $82,000. Now, if you're 50 and older, there's this $6,000 catch-up, so you can actually do $24,000. And Joe, as you already indicated, I'm over 50, so I can do 24,000. If you have a 401k, take advantage of it. It's a way to put a lot of money in for retirement. Now, for those of you that don't have 401ks, or even in some cases you have a 401k and you still want to put more money into retirement, you can set up IRAs or Roth contributions. And here's our amounts for the current year. $5,500. Again, if you're over 50, there's a catch-up. It's a $1,000 catch-up. So your amount is going to be $6,500 if you're over 50. So realize that you can do both depending upon your income levels. In some cases, the IRAs are deductible and alongside your 401k. In other cases, they're non-deductible. In many cases, you can do Roth contributions. There's all kinds of limitations, so you got to figure out what those are. But you got to start now, and if you haven't started, you want to start today.
Well, take a look. Just illustrate it. If I did start saving today, Al.
Yeah, let me show you.
If I'm 30 years old, that's ideal, right? Because if we could all go back in time, start saving. So if you're younger, please start saving now. If you're a little bit older, which a lot of individuals are lacking savings, well, it's never too late to start. So if Al, if you want to illustrate a little bit more, kind of, hey, compound interest, if you start saving now, what does that end up to be?
All right, here's an example. Let's say you are 30 years of age, Joe, as you mentioned. Now let's say your goal is to retire at 65. Okay, so that's 35 years. And let's say your salary is $100,000. Now 401k, you can put up to this $18,000 or $24,000 if you're over 50.
It's a heck of a job at age 30.
But yeah, it's tough. Let's say that you just put away 5% of your salary. That's about $417 per month. That's like a car payment, right? So instead of a car payment, how about saving into your retirement account? And the company's matching 4%. We're assuming an 8% rate of return. Look at this. $1.5 million in your retirement account. That's pretty good. That's what happens when you start early. That's compounding of money. Now, I know some of you are thinking, you know what, I'm 50, I haven't really started. What about for me? Well, look at this. Age 50, let's work to age 70. Let's go out another 5 years. Same thing, $417 per month. What does that mean for you? $410,000. Now, that's not as much as the 30-year-old, but you're still well ahead of the game. So, again, the point is start right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you take a look at $400,000, plus if I push my Social Security out to age 70, so that could provide me with maybe anywhere, $50,000, $60,000 of income. That's pretty good. So it's never too late to start, but you have to start right now. Don't go anywhere. When we get back, we're going to talk about a couple of different magic numbers that you have to consider in regards to your retirement accounts. And then we're going to answer your email questions. So if you got an email, stick around. We'll answer those questions for you. Coming up next, show's called Your Money, Your Wealth. Don't go anywhere. Hey, welcome back to the program. Show's called Your Money, Your Wealth. Joe Anderson, Big Al Clopine hanging out with you today, talking about retirement planning, redefining the retirement that you need to do to make sure that you are successful. This segment, we're going to dive into your email questions. We get a lot of email questions from you each and every week. We're going to start answering them today. But before we do that, let's get into the true-false question.
If I'm 62 and taking Social Security, I shouldn't withdraw money from my 401k because it will reduce my Social Security payments. And the answer to that is false. Now, there is something when you take Social Security early, because full retirement age for most of you is age 66. If you take Social Security early at 62, you cannot have earned income over about $15,000, $15,000 and change. So if you make more, if you have salary more than, say, $15,000, your Social Security benefits will be reduced. But a 401k is a whole different animal. It doesn't count towards this computation. So it doesn't matter. If you need to take money out of your 401k to supplement your Social Security, that's okay.
Hey, Alan, I want to get into some magic numbers here, because when it comes to retirement plans, you want to make sure that you consider this. There's a free zone, okay? So when you look at a 401k plan, IRA plan, you got from 59.5 to 70.5. You can do anything that you want with the money. You can take it all out, keep it all in there, don't do anything, whatever. If you take it out prior to 59.5, you're going to be assessed a 10% penalty. Now, there's one exception. If it comes out of a 401k plan, you can take that money out at age 55 as long as you're separated from service. So on one side of the spectrum, it's 59.5 for most. If you take it out prior to 59.5, it's a 10% penalty. Now, on the other side, you got 70 and a half, okay? So that is your required minimum distribution. If you do not take a required minimum distribution, you are actually penalized. It's one of the most harsh penalties the IRS will give you. It's a 50% penalty, a 50% tax penalty. One exception to the RMD rule: if you are still working with your employer, you do not have to take that required minimum distribution until April 1st after you retire. So just a couple of different caveats with the magic numbers when it comes to your retirement accounts. Without further ado, let's go to you now. The questions that you bring us each and every week in our email bag. So let's answer a couple of different email questions there, Big Al.
All right, here we go. My understanding is that I can take money out of my IRA and put it back within 60 days and not be taxed or penalized on the withdrawal, correct? This is from Dave in San Marcos.
What do you think?
So the answer is yes, but there's a brand new rule. So let me go back. Yes, you can. You can take money out of an IRA, you can put it in your checking account, you can spend it, you can do whatever you want to at any age, as long as you put it back into the IRA within 60 days. There is no tax and there is no penalty. Now, the new rule for last year is that you can only do this one time per year. So be careful. For those of you that have been using this strategy, you only get one chance per year.
Yeah, I think a lot of times what people would do is they would take loans from themselves from an IRA plan. So you could take an interest-free loan from yourself for 60 days and then put it right back into the IRA. It was called a 60-day rollover rule, right? And so people would continue to do that. Now it's one time with one IRA, that's it. So be careful. That's a brand new law right now. Let's go to the next email, Big Al.
All right, number 2. Can a retired person with a working spouse contribute to a spousal IRA? And the answer to that is yes. In other words, you can use your spouse's income to contribute to an IRA, perhaps even a Roth IRA. There are limitations. Like we talked about in the earlier segment, if you're over 70 and a half, you can no longer contribute to an IRA, but you still can contribute to a Roth IRA if your income is low enough. For that's married taxpayer. Under $183,000, you could do the whole $6,500 into a Roth IRA if you're over 50.
And this is a big deal because we get this question quite a bit. Is that, let's say that one spouse is retired, the other spouse is still working. We see this all the time. It's like, okay, well, why isn't your spouse contributing to the Roth IRA? Well, they'll say, well, because the spouse isn't working. It doesn't matter. Only one spouse needs to work. Now, here's the other catch, is that let's say if you're both over 50, one spouse needs to at least make $13,000, right, to maximize that Roth contribution. So if you're working part-time and you only make $4,000, that's the maximum that you can contribute. But just remember, if you are not working and your spouse is, and that spouse makes over $13,000 and you're both over 50, both of you can make a full contribution. So if you're not doing it, start, because all of that money will grow 100% tax-free for you. 100% tax-free. There's no better tax rate than that. Let's go to the last one, Big Al.
All right, number 3. This is from Jeff in Irvine. He says, I'm 54 and I hope to retire at 58. Does it make sense to increase my 401 contribution or just put additional money into my savings account? And this is a great question. So this is somebody that's putting money into the 401k and perhaps there's still room. We just talked about this, right? If you're over 50, you can put $24,000 into your 401k. Now, we would typically suggest that you continue to put money into your 401k, but check something. Check and see if there's a Roth provision, because in some cases your 401ks allow you to put money into the Roth side of the 401k. You don't get a tax deduction, but you have that money growing tax-free. That's a better way than to just put money straight into savings. Now, on the other hand, Jeff, if your taxable income is high, if you're in a high bracket, that tax savings of putting money into the regular 401k, maxing that out might be your best benefit.
Hey, and Jeff, I think this might, if I understand your question, it's like, hey, I want to retire early at 58, prior to 59 and a half, so should I continue to fund the 401k plan? Well, yes, you should, because like Al was just talking about, if you're in a high tax bracket, that's going to give you a great tax deduction. If there's a Roth provision in that plan, we would encourage you to take a look there too. But you will have access to that money at age 55, so you don't necessarily have to wait until 59 and a half to get access to your 401k account, as long as you separate from service. So if you separate from service, you will still have access to those those dollars in the 401k plan prior to 59.5 and avoid the 10% penalty. So there's a couple of different rules, a couple of different caveats when you look at 401k plans, 403b plans, TSPs, 457, the whole 9 yards. Hopefully that helped you out. All right, next week, or tomorrow, whenever you're watching the show, we're going to get into Social Security benefits. There's 527 different ways to take your benefits. We're going to go through all of them. So stick around and watch us next week. For Big Al Clopine, I'm Joe Anderson, and you just watched another episode of Your Money, and It's Your Wealth.